Yo, what's up guys? Insane Game Freak here to bring you another societal discussion, new room. Still trying out different poses in terms of making videos, but see how this one goes, and if this one's cool, we might use this one for a while, but essentially, this is going to be talking about, shouldn't have talked like that. This is going to be talking about death. This video is probably going to be stemmed off of the Cloud Village discussion, which I'm assuming when I upload this video will be probably a while back from when I'm actually recording. I'm actually recording the day it came out, but as you know, spacing and shit. So this is kind of based around that discussion because they were that was the deep discussion they uploaded on the they uploaded on Cloud Village because I wasn't in the call because I had homework. It's kind of around that whole death thing, and if I think murder is okay, or if I think we should not kill each other is okay. So let's get into it. So in terms of my opinion on which side I'm kind of on, it's like, from what I heard in the call and watched the video they put up for it, I probably would go with Hado and J-Man in the sense of saying that I don't think killing can be justified. And the reason why I say that is actually stemming off a whole bunch of shit, so long video warning, here you go. I don't agree with revenge or murder being justified. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm assuming that's because you haven't been in the real world. Which could be it, but I really doubt it. And the reason why I say that is because I'm 20. I'm aware of the harsh realities of the world enough to understand why murder and you know, killing each other would be a choice that people would take. I understand why people think death for some people is necessary. I understand that. And I mean, but my problem with it is it doesn't really accomplish anything in the long run. A lot of people who say you should kill that nigga or that nigga should have died is usually on some instant gratification bullshit that doesn't help out in the real sense. And let me explain when I say instant gratification. I don't mean like the next day kind of shit. I mean the rest of that person's life instant gratification. That's what that's what their instant gratification is. This is where your ideas are going to differ, and this kind of correlates to why some people choose the revenge and death thing over peace and tranquility thing. The death thing is usually a thing that people choose, and the people who usually choose this idea are usually people who aren't worrying about the future. And I don't mean their future, I mean the future. I mean after they die kind of future. Because the concept of the peace and tranquility thing, at least for me personally, stems from me thinking about the far off future. Because here's my thing. If you kill a man because he killed your daughter, what have you accomplished? A lot of people would say, well, we've protected the world against that man. Yes, but now you have continued a trend, and you are now building a society on the concept that we need to kill niggas who are evil. The problem with that is, considering how fucking gray the evil area is, how anything can virtually be justified as evil, and how anything can be justified as good for the most part, you have people killing each other over the dumbest shit now. I mean, if you think about it nowadays, when people are killing each other over shoes, because stepping on your shoe is considered a quote-unquote evil. You know, like, that's my problem. It's like you're raising children in future generations on the concept that to solve your problems and to stop the evil from spreading, you kill them. Now, from what we understand, isn't killing an evil within itself? Now, it depends on how the child processes this. The child could just, and then now you have a society that's like a cult who believes in that same. That's actually how cults are kind of set up in a sense. That they're taught that something is evil, and they just run with it. You know, that's the problem with killing people. You now have an evil being a justifiable means, which means now that that future generations will take that as a kind of a lesson to use to kill other people, and it be justified as a good instead of an evil. And that's the kind of the problem I have with the whole killing people thing. At least with and a lot of people go, but what about the women who were, you know, raped and sodomized and shit? What about the the children that were burned and killed to death. It's like, you don't think those people should die? No. I think they should be severely punished. And let me explain. I don't believe in the concept of not kicking their asses or not, getting the shit whooped out of them for it. Mind you, that's something that I'll also need to go if we ever get past this whole killing thing, which it'll probably be a very long while before we get past the killing thing. But that is something eventually we'll have to go. But me personally, and this is just my generation, I can't get past that concept of not beating their ass for it. I can get past the concept of not killing them, but there should be some type of physical replication for that. You should have the ability to whoop their ass, just not kill them. I want that to be perfectly clear. And the reason, mind you, as I said, the beating their ass thing will eventually need to go for other reasons in the future. But the whole thing with me personally is killing them only helps you and the people within that person's lifetime. That doesn't help everyone. That helps people within that lifetime. And a lot of people, and I think it was Dr. Doe who was saying this, that there are possibilities that people can change. And a lot of people disagree with that, saying, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change. That doesn't necessarily mean they are good. That doesn't necessarily mean they are evil. The thing with me is I prefer the possibility of change, and I prefer 1% over 0. Let's put it that way. I prefer 1% over 0. Because 0% means you now have you're teaching the newer generation to build a society upon the concept of revenge and death and shit to solve your problems. Versus that 1% where if that person changed, you've now taught the newer generation that if a person can be saved, try to save them. And don't just give up on a person just because they've done some fucked up shit. Because the possibility of a person changing is still there. And it's better than a person who's dead, in my opinion. Because the concept of killing people, to me, doesn't accomplish anything. It really doesn't. It's like, oh, you protected, quote unquote, you protected everyone from that quote unquote evil. Which is, I say quote unquote because everything is perceived by other people as evil. I mean, I think Bakari said in that call, it was like, suicide bombers think that what they're doing is necessarily good. And then it becomes this really fucked up distinction between good and evil. And now you're sitting here trying to be God and trying to judge which is good and which is evil based on how you grew up. Society kind of controls a lot of that. And for people to just decide to take it within their own hands and say, that person is evil, that person needs to be dealt with, and the way I deal with evil people is to shoot them. That's kind of trying to play God. I'm just saying. A little bit. I'm not going to say it's being God, but it's kind of trying to play God. Like you feel like you have the right to not only to not only judge a person, but to then carry out the sentence that you have now created for that person. It's kind of fucked up. It's like, you raped my girlfriend. My girlfriend died from that. I know that is really hard to swallow. Like in all seriousness, I can't sit there and say that I wouldn't sympathize or that I disagree wholeheartedly with a man who just lost his wife or his child to another man who is staring him in the face and he has a gun in his hand. I cannot honestly sit there and say that I would blame him for shooting the trigger. I would not blame him for shooting the trigger. But at the same time, I can't necessarily agree with it. That's with me. That's me personally. I can totally understand where you're coming from. But I can't get behind you shooting him for it. And it's all because kind of I honestly believe the whole concept of death and how people should die and the death penalty really stems from what kind of mindset people have, which is that either I don't give a fuck, it's all about me gratification, or I'm worrying about everybody. If you're worrying about everybody, you can't get behind that. And a lot of people think, well, yes, you can. You're protecting them. You're not really protecting them. You've now just made it very easy for this to relapse. Because what's essentially going to happen is, let's say you do this whole killing evil people thing, and you go through, and you teach other generations to do this, and eventually you hit to a generation where everyone is quote-unquote good. I say quote-unquote good, but you understand that in a second. Because evil has such a fucking gray area, people now have to discern which they define as good and which they define as evil. And because not everybody is the same, everybody's going to have a different perception of what they think evil is. So you will have good people shooting other good people because they didn't find what that good person did to be good. That is the problem with this whole killing people to quote-unquote help society. You're not helping society. You're just going to make this a little bit more annoying when we get to that whole... If we follow that rule of going with this shit, then we're literally going to lead into an area where it's just going to relapse. Literally, we're just going to relapse. We're just going to go through this whole point of where... It's like the whole Salem witch trials thing where they thought witches were evil just because. And it's like... You have people who disagree and agree with that. And now if you disagree and you go on the side of the witches, quote unquote, then you are now quote unquote evil because you sided with the witch who didn't necessarily was evil, but you know, witches are just deemed evil. It's kind of like that. It's like you're deeming a person evil based on your perception, as if your perception is the right one. And that's the other problem. Like people, that's the whole concept with the death penalty and everything. Is like people... You're essentially taking it upon your hands to justify what you can and cannot be killed for. At least with the peace sense of things, you have a percentage of people... I don't think the jail concept is bad. I think people just don't like the jail concept because it costs money. I understand that. And you know, a lot of people have hatred in their heart. A lot of people don't want to just get over it. A lot of people want the instant gratification. They don't want to just harbor the memories in their mind. They want some type of peace of mind, which is kind of what religion is in a sense. Anyways, but like a lot of people want that peace of mind. They want something. They want something they can hold on to make what happened to them better. You know, if you got raped and sodomized, and the man is like in jail, most people aren't even content with that. Most people want that man dead, and it's like I can totally understand why you feel that way. But you're not helping anything. You're teaching your daughters or you're teaching your children or you're teaching other people that is how we handle things. And eventually if everyone goes into that mindset, then you now have to have a whole bunch of people with 3 or 4 million different types of justice and evil and good complexes, killing or saving lives depending on what they define as good and evil. And that is kind of why the world is the way it is. Because we have like 20 million people who have a lot of generalized ideas. But on top of all those generalized ideas, there are a lot of things that differ. And those things that differ are the reason why a man would get shot for raping a woman. And another man wouldn't get shot but another man won't die because he killed his son. I mean, and the problem is that there's a lot of... It goes into that whole concept of what you think is good and what you think is evil. You know, is a man who shot a woman who just killed a child evil? And there's a woman who killed a man because the man cheated on her evil. It's like that kind of situation. And that's the problem with the whole killing concept. Is that you're trying to play God in some sense. You're trying to become the being that deems what is and is not evil. Mind you, you're going to do that anyway. But I don't think you should be in charge of someone else's life because of it. I don't think anyone should be in charge of someone else's life. In the sense of, I control whether you live or die. You should not have that. I don't think any human should have that power over any other human. I mean, think about it this way. You have a really in-between situation like this. A man saves 100 people. You know, a lot of people say the man is good. But the man enslaved all those 100 people for the rest of their lives. And they all died being his slaves. Is he still a good person? He saved those people's lives from dying then. But they really have their own life. But did he save their lives or did he just save, you know, a whole bunch of pointless beings' lives and they just kind of just worked for him until they died? I mean, they all lived until they were like 90 or some shit. They all had like full lives. They just didn't, they were just slaves the entire time. Is that man who saved those people a good person or is he a horrible person? See the problem with the whole killing thing? It's like, does that man deserve to die? Do you think you should be the one who can enact justice upon that man? I mean, a lot of people, I'll put it this way. A lot of people know that realistically, the whole Naruto Kenshin way of thinking wouldn't work 90% of the time. But I find it hilarious that we all believe we know that won't work, but we all like that idea. That's what I find crazy. And a lot of people don't agree with that idea because it's not realistic. But when you support things that contradict their mindsets, of course it's not going to be realistic. It's like you can't, it's like, it's very hard. This will be like, to me, if a man, I have more respect for a man who didn't kill the man who killed his daughter than I do for a man who shot that man who killed his daughter. Because at least the man who didn't shoot the guy for killing his daughter, I can say had a little bit more sense. Where you can totally tell that the man who killed that man for killing his daughter was running off some extreme hatred or wasn't really thinking, in my opinion. And I know that's mean. I mean, I'm not going to hate either one of those, and I can see why they both did what they did. But I have a little bit more respect for the man who didn't kill that dude. Because then I can look at him and be like, I can see where you're coming from. I can see he was thinking about in the long run. Because there's a possibility that man can change. And even if there isn't, he's now shown to other people that killing doesn't accomplish anything. And I guess the best way you can also relate this is the Batman mindset. You know, how the Batman won't kill the Joker, even though the Joker goes around and kills people. But he thinks it's his duty to stop the Joker all the goddamn time. But he refuses to kill him. A lot of people, I find it hilarious. A lot of people think Batman is cool, but a lot of people don't agree with Batman. I think if more people had that kind of mentality, and we wouldn't have as many deaths. But then you have people in other countries who are like enslaving people and shooting people and killing children, and now you have to make the distinction to go, do you think that person should die for killing all those people? And 90% of people would say yes. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say yes. I would say no. I don't think that man deserves to die. He deserves to be locked the fuck up for it. But I don't think he deserves to die because his death will cause so many future deaths. That's the way I think of it is. You killing a man isn't helping anything. You now have just created more of a catalyst for future deaths in the future. Because a lot of people base their justification for killing people on other justifications. Like, oh, he cheated on me. You know, you create like women who kill men because, oh, they cheated on me. The problem with the whole not playing God thing, which is where I feel like this is when you're trying to control someone else's life, is that you were trying to become God in the sense that you're trying to just dictate what is evil and what is good. If we were meant to do it like that, I don't mind us having that distinction between good and evil, but I don't think it should be to the point where we're controlling people's lives. And I don't agree with the concept that we should kill everybody who's evil. Because then we go into this fucked up connotation of what is and is not evil, and you are now left in a situation where a man is evil because he strangled the shit out of his daughter. But the man is also good because by strangling his daughter, he did, quote unquote, like, what would you do in a situation where the man is good and evil? That's the problem with the concept of killing and revenge. Is that when you're in those situations, you end up having to make a choice, and you're not necessarily proud of that choice afterwards. A lot of people can do the ones where there's a clear distinction. Oh, that man hurt a whole bunch of people. He's evil. That man saved a whole bunch of people. He's good. But what happens when you get into that, when it gets even more specific than that, and you have a man who has done evil things, but has done very good things? Let's say this man has saved 1,000 people, but he has killed 1,000 people. Who is that man? Is that man good or evil? That is the problem with the concept of the whole death and revenge thing with me. And the peace concept, it's not a bad idea. It's just very idealistic. But if, people would more adopt this idea, it would stop becoming idealistic and become more of the norm. Just saying. Teaching your children the idealism is a little bit better than teaching them a fucked up sense of realism. I say a fucked up sense of realism because it isn't a realism that's necessary. It's a realism that stems from essentially what we keep telling people. We keep telling people the world is harsh and cruel. So then by proxy we create more people who will then go on to pass on that same idea. We passed on the idea that the world is evil and cruel. Therefore, the norm now is that the world is evil and cruel. See where I'm going with that? But I don't know. That's just my whole thoughts on the whole death thing. But I'm about to go eat some ribs and drink some lemonade. So I'm going to leave this video off. Life's a gameplay to win. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Video response. I would love video responses for this, but we'll see. But anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Insane Old Game Freak, out. Peace.